few places I've ever seen. And I want to thank all of the people, General Semonite from the Army Corps of Engineers. We're working very closely with them. I want to thank Kevin and all of your staff because what they've done is beyond. And I wanted to show you some of the details of the wall. You can see a pretty good view. This is going to be close to 500 miles by the time we finish. Those are the areas that are most important. After we're completed that should be done pretty close to next year. It'll be over 400 miles, and we think we can get it close to 500 miles by the end of next year, depending on certain terrain conditions. But we're doing all of the most important areas. We have a lot of natural barriers like mountains and streams and rivers and some pretty vicious and violent rivers, actually. But it's an amazing project. And I think what I'd like you to do is if you could explain the interior of these pipes. The wall is 30 feet high. We also have 18-foot wall. We have a combination of 30 feet and 18, depending on the area, depending on the importance. Tijuana is right over here. There are thousands of people over there that had been trying to get in. Tremendous cooperation from Mexico, and the president of Mexico has been fantastic. All of Mexico has been fantastic. As you know, right now they have 27,000 soldiers. So in addition to the wall, we have the soldiers. Now, the wall still obviously has a ways to go, but we're building it at a breakneck speed. I wanted them to show you the interior of parts of the wall and what's inside of each individual slat. And you'll see it's a combination of steel, concrete, and as one of the folks just said, it really is virtually impenetrable. Any walls that were put up would get knocked down very quickly, very easily. This wall is not something that can be really knocked down. I guess anything can, but this is very tough. And it goes down 6 feet. It's 3 and 4 feet wide. The concrete, you see it right here, it's exposed. And I might ask General Semonite to say a few words about it. And I'd like to bring them right up, look at the inner tube to see what happens, because after the wall is up, we pour concrete, and concrete goes into the tube. And in addition to that, we have rebar. So if you think you're going to cut it with a blowtorch, that doesn't work because you hit concrete. And then if you think you're going to go through the concrete, that doesn't work because we have very powerful rebar inside. So it's a very powerful wall, the likes of which probably to this extent has not been built before. This is an area, because it's so highly trafficked, this was one of the most dangerous areas. We have a double wall. We have a wall on both sides. One is 18 feet. That's your border, and the other one is 30 feet. And everybody, if they should be able to make that, this is where people are waiting for them. It's a very powerful situation. So, General, maybe you could take over for a couple of minutes, and then I'll take it back.
So, Mr. President, I want to build on your comments. This is a system. It is both the two walls, but it also is road networks down through the middle and the back so that Customs and Border can go ahead and continue to be able to move around it. Also, lighting system. And as you think about this, I mean, it really is kind of a defense in depth. When you think about these panels going up, right now we're putting in about 270 panels a day that are going in the ground. We've got over 44,000 panels that are already built. And you think about the depth of how we're doing it, without getting a lot of details, 66 miles today are already completed. There's 251 miles that are under contract going in the ground right now at 17 other sites. There's 163 miles that are actually on contracts that are going to be let in the next 90 days, and the remainder of the miles the President talked about is mainly private land that takes a little bit longer to get. One of the things I want to just remind you about, when you have a football field, kind of a flat area like this, it's a little bit easier to build a wall. But if you just turn around and look at the mountain behind you, one of the projects that's going to go up in the next year continues this barrier right up over the rest of that mountain. So it goes back to be able to, we've got to have this linear capability to be able to continue to provide that level of defense. We will talk, this is what the bollards look like, 30 feet high on the backside, and you'll see on the inside there was a time
Come on over here if you want. You can bring the cameras. It's sort of interesting.
Where people were worried that maybe you could negotiate through the ballard. So what the ballard is now, again, is that there are two pieces of rebar, 12 feet long, that are inside the ballard, And then when we put it up, we put concrete in. I won't tell you the depth of the concrete, but it's a pretty substantial obstacle to be able to go through. And I would defer to you, Commissioner, for anything else you want to add.
Yeah, thanks, General. So a very important part of this, and that's why the President was talking about the General. Right here, what the wall gets is it gets the men and women of CBP, specifically Border Patrol, operational capacity to get to the area where people are trying to illegally cross. Before the old landing style, they could cut through that in seconds. Sometimes they could come a vehicle and just knock it over, and literally within seconds, they were into the United States illegally. This makes it almost impenetrable. Right now, they've had 4 attempts to cut through this. All 4 times it's failed. Border Patrol's been able to respond and interdict those individuals. This right here, this design, it's a game changer.
And the reason we pour the concrete afterwards is because it's too heavy to lift when the concrete's poured in. So we put it up and we pour the concrete. A lot of people don't see that, but we pour the concrete afterwards. So you have the rebar, you have the steel, and then you have concrete, and it's hardened concrete, very powerful concrete. What is that, 4,000 pounds or 5,000 pound concrete?
I think it's 5,000, sir.
That's a very strong, that's a very powerful concrete. And a lot of technological advances have been made with concrete. It sounds pretty simple, but it's not. It's a very powerful concrete. So you have the rebar, you have the outer crust, and you have the inside is concrete, and it's pretty amazing. And again, the concrete's poured after it's up. They pour it through funnels and cover much of the territory of the bollard.
Mr. President, also, this is a great view to look at the anti-climb. I defer to the Commissioner to explain what that panel does.
Hey, you know what? I'd actually turn this over right now to our Chief Patrol Agent right now, Agent Harrison. He's really going to be able to give you, from an agent's perspective, exactly the magnitude of what this wall, the operational capacity, gives the Border Patrol agents.
Thank you, Commissioner and Mr. President. So you know, sir, this is the wall that the agents asked for. And they wanted me to tell you personally that they appreciate this, and not only this here, but the extension that's bringing the secondary out, further out. They really appreciate it. It makes them safer, it makes the community safer, and it allows us to make that apprehension here in the border zone, as opposed to getting in vehicles and getting in pursuits on the highway. We want to make that apprehension here.
Well, you know, just in terms of the quality, I came with the Border Patrol. We worked with them very closely. I said, fellas, how about doing a less expensive version? They said, well, this is the version that works, including the poured concrete in the steel with the rebar and everything else. That's the Rolls-Royce version. Then I said, well, fellas, how about doing 1 wall instead of 2? In a lot of areas, we have 2 where you have tremendous amounts of people on the other side trying to break through. We know exactly where those areas are. Tijuana being over here, as I said. And they said, well, sir, 2 works much better in these areas, a lot more expensive. So we have at the one side on the border 18, and then we have over here 30 feet. And I think one of the things you were asking, Mark, and wanted somebody to explain is the protection on top, how that stops. It's a anti-climb device. If you look at the steel on top, it's also structural, but actually it was there more importantly for anti-climb. Do you want to explain that?
So it's
the panels up there.
So it's one thing to figure out how to navigate the vertical post, but the transition at the top makes the climb orders of magnitude more difficult. It requires different equipment, different tools, different skills, and so it's the change as we get to the top that adds to the protection of that fence, sir.
And again, anything that we can do to give the Border Patrol agent even a few more seconds, a few more minutes to respond, that's a game changer. And sir, if you don't mind, I think this is important to talk about, the Chief Patrol Agent just mentioned, is that there's a false narrative out there that this wall is the president's vanity wall. I'm here to tell you right now that's false. This president, this administration, what they did is exactly what the president just explained. He reached out to the experts, to the Border Patrol agents that are on the front lines every single day, risking their lives, protecting this country, enforcing the laws that Congress enacted. He reached out to those agents, to those line agents, and asked, what do you need to do your job more effectively to secure and safeguard this country? And those Border Patrol agents said, we need this. So this president, thank you. You listened to the agents and you gave them exactly what they asked for.
This is your maximum that you could do. And one thing we haven't mentioned is technology. They're wired so that we will know if somebody's trying to break through. And you may want to discuss that a little bit, General.
Sir, there could be some merit in not discussing that.
Okay? I like that. That was a great answer. I'll just tell you they're wired, okay? They're wired. It's technologically very advanced, all set up for cameras any place we want. We have all of the everything we need, but it's all set up for cameras, for anything. You've been hearing drone technology. They're all wired out for drone technology. Anything you want, we have. And frankly, this is the right time to do it, because to do it later after it's built is very expensive. This way, it's mostly just adding wire. So we're all set up to adapt. And that's the story. We have certain areas like this where you have double walls. If you look behind, you can see how that goes up the hill. And that goes many miles in that direction. And we're starting now many miles in this direction. We also have, it all fits together like a puzzle. How many sites would you say over the next period of time will have been started construction?
So probably about 35 sites at any one given point, all working. And some of the contractors, actually, if they build in 5 miles, they might be having one on one end, one on the other, and one in the middle, so they get the maximum amount of people building at the same time.
So we have different bids and different contractors. This is one contractor, an excellent contractor, by the way. They're doing a really good job. But we have many contractors bidding on many different parts in different states. In Arizona, New Mexico, where I just left, we have great contractors bidding, and we're starting walls in New Mexico. The Arizona walls are moving along really well. They're really moving along rapidly, and they need them desperately. And part of the beauty, sometimes you'll see the tunneling where they go under the wall. Here, this goes down, the concrete goes down very deep. It's very hard to tunnel. You can't tunnel. It's actually dangerous, but at a certain point you hit rock, so you can't tunnel. So we have it covered underground, we have it covered overground, and this is, as I said, this is the finest you can do. I said, let's do it differently. We don't have to go 30 feet. They said, sir, if you don't go 30 feet, it won't be the same because of the climb. We actually built prototypes, and we have, I guess you could say, world-class mountain climbers. We got climbers. We had 20 mountain climbers. That's all they do. They love to climb mountains. They can have it. Me, I don't want to climb mountains, but they're very good. And some of them were champions, and we gave them different prototypes of walls. And this was the one that was hardest to climb. And we've all seen the pictures of young people climbing walls with drugs on their back. A lot of drugs. I mean, they're unbelievable climbers. This wall can't be climbed. This is very, very hard. And what the panel does on top, as I said, is structural, but it's also very hard to get by that panel. Plus, it's designed to absorb heat. So it's extremely hot. The wall is, you won't be able to touch it. You can fry an egg on that wall. It's very, very hot. So if they're going to climb it, they're going to have to bring hoses and water, and we don't know where they're going to hook it up because there's not a lot of water out here. So it's a very, very hard thing to climb. We were thinking about an all-concrete wall. This is a much more expensive version, but they want to be able to have a vision in through, looking through Mexico, looking in both directions. They have to be able to, because otherwise you have a block. You can't see what's going on the other side. They could build, literally, they could have a group of some pretty tough people out there, and we don't want to do that. You may want to explain that. Why would you need this vision? It was so important because, frankly, an all-concrete wall would have been a much less expensive wall to build, but from this